Welcome to our deep dive into administrative discretion, a cornerstone of administrative law. In this video, we'll explore what administrative discretion means, why it's essential for modern governance, and how it's balanced by judicial control and state liability. Administrative discretion allows authorities to make choices among alternatives, but these choices must be guided by reason and justice, not personal whims. As we journey through this topic, we'll see how the law ensures that such power is exercised responsibly, protecting both public interest and individual rights. Administrative discretion refers to the power given to officials to choose between different courses of action. According to Koch, discretion is the science of distinguishing between right and wrong, truth and falsity. In law, discretion should be exercised independently based on reason and justice, not personal preference. Statutes often use terms like adequate, advisable, or beneficial to confer discretion, but these involve degrees of judgment. The key is that discretion must not be arbitrary or vague, but legal and regular. Everyday language, discretion means choosing freely among options, even whimsically. However, administrative discretion is different. Here, choices must be made with reference to rules of reason and justice, not personal desires. This ensures that decisions are not arbitrary or fanciful, but are grounded in legality and fairness. The complexity arises because while discretion is necessary for effective governance, unchecked discretion can lead to misuse. The solution lies in tightening procedures, not abolishing discretion altogether. Even with careful drafting of statutes, the exercise of administrative discretion can sometimes drift into vagueness or arbitrariness. That's why judicial correction is vital. Courts step in to review unreasonable exercises of discretion, ensuring that administrative power is not misused. This judicial oversight helps transform vague generalizations into specific, fair decisions, maintaining a balance between necessary flexibility and legal accountability. In India, courts have developed parameters to guide the proper exercise of administrative discretion. However, judicial behavior here is more cautious compared to the activism seen in American courts. Judicial control operates at two stages: first, when discretion is delegated, and second, when it is exercised. This two-tiered approach ensures that both the granting and use of discretionary power are subject to legal scrutiny. Exercise of discretion must not be arbitrary or influenced by irrelevant factors. Decisions should be guided by public interest, policy, and procedural safeguards. Courts have consistently held that discretionary powers must be hedged by clear standards. If these are missing, the exercise or even the delegation of discretion can be quashed. This principle is central to upholding the rule of law and minimizing arbitrariness in public power. Courts in India review administrative discretion on several grounds. These include abuse of discretion, failure to exercise discretion, and exceeding jurisdiction. Abuse of discretion can occur if power is used for an improper purpose, with Malafide intent, or based on irrelevant considerations. Failure to exercise discretion includes non-application of mind or acting under dictation. Exceeding jurisdiction means going beyond the legal limits set by statute. Abuse of discretion is a key ground for judicial intervention. It happens when discretionary power is used for a purpose other than what it was intended for, or with dishonest motives. For example, if an authority uses its power to benefit a private interest instead of the public, courts can quash such actions. Similarly, decisions based on irrelevant or mixed considerations or those made unreasonably are also subject to judicial correction. Administrative authorities must comply with procedural requirements and principles of natural justice. If a mandatory procedure is ignored, the exercise of power is invalid. Whether a procedure is mandatory or directory is decided by the courts. Observing natural justice ensures fairness, transparency, and accountability in administrative actions, reinforcing the legitimacy of discretionary decisions. Authorities must act within the limits set by law. If they exceed their jurisdiction, their actions are considered ultra vires or beyond their legal power and are void. This principle ensures that no authority can overstep its boundaries, protecting citizens from unlawful administrative actions. Sometimes, authorities fail to exercise their discretion altogether. This can happen if they do not apply their mind to the facts, or if they act under the dictation of a superior, rather than independently. For instance, if a police commissioner cancels a license solely on government orders without personal judgment, courts may invalidate the action for non-application of mind. Authorities must not impose rigid rules that prevent them from considering individual cases. If they adopt a fixed policy and apply it to all cases without considering unique circumstances, it is seen as a failure to exercise discretion. Courts require that each case be evaluated on its own merits, ensuring fairness and flexibility in administrative decisions. Administrative discretion must respect fundamental rights guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. If a law grants wide discretionary power that infringes on these rights, courts can declare it unconstitutional. Articles 32, 226, and 227 empower courts to control administrative authorities, ensuring that their actions do not violate fundamental rights. Article 14 of the Indian Constitution guarantees equality before the law and equal protection of the laws. This means the state cannot discriminate arbitrarily. While the law allows for reasonable classification, it prohibits class legislation. Courts have struck down laws that create unjust distinctions, ensuring that administrative discretion does not undermine equality. Article 19 guarantees several fundamental freedoms, including speech, assembly, association, movement, and profession. Any restriction on these rights must be constitutionally valid and reasonable. Courts review such restrictions to ensure they serve legitimate purposes and are not excessive, thus protecting citizens from arbitrary administrative actions. Judicial control over administrative acts is based on two main principles. First, whether the exercise of discretion exceeds authority ultra vires, and second, whether there is abuse or improper exercise of discretion. These principles ensure that administrative power is kept within legal bounds and used fairly. India, judicial review of administrative discretion can be constitutional, statutory, or ordinary equitable. Constitutional review is based on Articles 32, 226, and 227. Statutory review is provided by specific laws such as the Workmen's Compensation Act. Ordinary review includes remedies like injunctions, declarations, and suits for damages. An injunction is a judicial order restraining a person from continuing or committing a wrongful act. Under the Specific Relief Act, courts can issue injunctions to preserve the status quo until a dispute is resolved. This remedy is crucial for preventing harm while legal proceedings are ongoing. A declaratory action is a judicial remedy that conclusively determines the rights and obligations of parties without imposing further sanctions. It clarifies legal relationships and removes doubts, providing certainty for both public authorities and individuals. When an individual suffers harm due to wrongful acts by public authorities, they can file a suit for damages. The principles for determining compensation are similar to those applied in private disputes. This remedy ensures accountability and provides redress for aggrieved individuals. Administrative discretion can be challenged on several grounds: improper purpose, irrelevant considerations, malafide intent, unreasonableness, lack of procedural compliance, and arbitrary use of power. Courts examine these factors to ensure that discretion is exercised within legal and ethical boundaries. Several landmark cases illustrate judicial control over administrative discretion. For example, in R.D. Shetty v. International Airport Authority, 1979, the Supreme Court emphasized the need for fairness and reasonableness in administrative actions. Similarly, Himatla v. Police Commissioner, Ahmedabad, 1973, reinforced the importance of procedural safeguards. Individuals have remedies against the state for administrative actions, but these may be limited by certain privileges and immunities. While the state enjoys some protections, administrative law seeks to balance these with the need for accountability in a democratic society. The Constitution allows the government to sue and be sued, ensuring that citizens can seek redress when harmed by state action. Government enjoys certain privileges in legal proceedings. For example, in England, statutes do not bind the Crown unless explicitly stated. In India, statutes generally bind the state unless expressly exempted. These privileges are designed to protect public interest but are subject to judicial scrutiny to prevent misuse. Sections 80 and 82 of the Civil Procedure Code provide special procedures for suits against the government. Section 80 requires a 2-month notice before suing the government or a public officer, allowing time for settlement. Section 82 specifies the time for satisfying decrees against the government. These provisions aim to balance administrative efficiency with individual rights. There are exceptions to the notice requirement under Section 80. For instance, if immediate relief is needed, courts can allow suits without the standard notice. Also, this requirement does not apply to suits against statutory corporations or to writ petitions. These exceptions ensure that urgent or special cases are not delayed by procedural formalities. Government can withhold documents from court if their disclosure would harm public interest. In England, this was once an absolute privilege, but courts now have the power to review such claims. In India, only records whose disclosure would harm state affairs are privileged. Courts decide whether a document is privileged, balancing public and private interests. Limitation Act provides a longer period for the government to file suits, reflecting the maxim that time does not run against the Crown. However, this extended period does not apply to appeals or applications. Courts may condone delays if there is sufficient cause, but the government is not given special treatment in this regard. Promissory estoppel prevents a party from denying facts they previously asserted if another party relied on those assertions. In administrative law, this doctrine can be applied against the government to prevent injustice, except where the promise is contrary to law or beyond the authority of the official. This principle ensures fairness in government dealings. Article 299 of the Constitution sets out the requirements for valid government contracts. Contracts must be made in the name of the President or Governor, executed on their behalf, and signed by authorized persons. These formalities are mandatory, and contracts not meeting them are void and unenforceable. If the government breaches a contract, the usual remedy is a suit for damages. Traditionally, writs like mandamus were not issued for contractual obligations, but recent Supreme Court rulings have allowed writs in certain cases, expanding the remedies available to aggrieved parties. Section 70 of the Indian Contract Act imposes liability on the government for benefits received, even without a formal contract. If someone lawfully does something for the government and the government benefits, it must compensate the person. This ensures fairness even in the absence of a formal agreement. If a contract with the government is void due to noncompliance with Article 299, Section 65 of the Indian Contract Act requires the party who received an advantage to restore it or compensate the other party. This provision ensures that neither side is unjustly enriched by a void agreement. Tort is a civil wrong not arising from a contract, for which compensation may be claimed. The doctrine of sovereign immunity once protected the state from being sued for torts, but modern law recognizes the state's liability for wrongful acts of its servants, except in certain sovereign functions like defense or foreign affairs. Vicarious liability means holding one person responsible for the acts of another. The state can be held liable for torts committed by its employees during their official duties, unless the act was necessary for protection of life or property, or was a judicial or quasi-judicial act done in good faith. Several cases have shaped the law on state liability for torts. In P&O Steam Navigation v. Secretary of State for India, the court held the government liable for torts committed by its servants. Later cases like State of Rajasthan v. Vidyawati and Kasturi Lal v. State of UP further clarified the scope and limits of such liability. When a public servant is negligent, compensation for the aggrieved person is often more important than punishment. Courts in India have increasingly held the government liable for damages, even in cases where sovereign functions might have previously shielded the state from liability. This shift reflects a growing emphasis on individual rights and accountability. The distinction between sovereign and non-sovereign functions is less relevant today. Modern jurisprudence holds that the state should not be above the law and citizens must have remedies for wrongful acts by public officials. Courts now focus on the nature and manner of the act rather than rigid categories. Articles 294, 298, 299, and 300 of the Constitution deal with the government's contractual liability. Government contracts must meet constitutional and statutory requirements to be valid. The same principles for determining damages in private contracts apply to government contracts, ensuring fairness and consistency. The requirements of Article 299 are mandatory and cannot be waived by the government. This ensures that all government contracts adhere to strict legal standards, protecting both the state and contracting parties from disputes over validity. The government enjoys certain privileges under the Civil Procedure Code and Evidence Act, such as notice requirements and the ability to withhold sensitive documents. These privileges are balanced by judicial oversight to prevent abuse and ensure justice. Under English law, the Crown was historically immune from civil and criminal liability, based on the principle that the king can do no wrong. However, Indian law has evolved to hold the government liable for torts committed by its servants, reflecting a more modern and equitable approach. In India, the government can be sued for torts committed by its servants, as established in early cases like P&O Steam Navigation Co. versus Secretary of State for India. Article 300 of the Constitution affirms this liability, subject to any laws made by Parliament or state legislatures. Notable cases like New Marine Coal Co. versus Union of India and Mahavir Auto Stores versus Indian Oil Corporation have further clarified the legal principles governing government liability in contracts and torts. These cases highlight the evolving nature of administrative law and the judiciary's role in shaping it. Summary: administrative discretion is essential for effective governance, but it must be exercised within legal and ethical boundaries. Judicial control, constitutional safeguards, and clear remedies ensure that administrative power is balanced by accountability. As society evolves, so too does the law, striving to protect both public interest and individual rights. Understanding these principles is crucial for anyone studying or practicing administrative law.